They called it the pit. Blackwood Penitentiary wasn't just a prison. It was a concrete tomb buried deep in the scorched wasteland of the Nevada desert. The sun beat down on the gray walls, relentlessly baking the air until it shimmered with heat waves. Inside, it was a different kind of heat, the suffocating pressure of 2,000 dangerous men caged like animals. My name is Dr. Grace Miller. I am 28 years old, and I am the new head physician of the Blackwood Infirmary. Most people thought I was insane for taking this job. "You're a brilliant surgeon, Grace," my colleagues at Chicago Med had said. "Why throw your career away on murderers and rapists?" I didn't tell them the truth. I didn't tell them about the mountains of medical school debt that were burying me alive. I didn't tell them about my father's gambling addiction that drained my savings account every month. Blackwood offered triple the salary of any city hospital plus a hazardous duty bonus. It was blood money, maybe, but it was money I desperately needed. "Keep your head down, Doc." Warden Halloway had warned me on my first day, his eyes scanning my face with a mixture of pity and skepticism. "Do not engage with the inmates. Do not learn their names. Do not look them in the eye. To them, you are not a doctor. You are prey." I nodded, clutching my stethoscope like a shield. "I understand, Warden." "And one more thing," he added, his voice dropping. "If you ever find yourself in a room with inmate 8930, don't turn your back. Ever." Inmate 8930. I heard the whispers about him in the corridors. The guards spoke his name with a strange mix of fear and reverence. Roman Sterling. Once he was the king of Silicon Valley. A billionaire tech mogul who revolutionized cybersecurity. He was on the cover of Forbes' Time GQ. He had the world at his feet. Now he was serving consecutive life sentences without the possibility of parole. The crime. The brutal, premeditated murder of his business partner and best friend. They said he hacked the security system of his own penthouse to hide the evidence. They said he was a cold-blooded psychopath. I told myself he was just another patient, just another number in an orange jumpsuit. I was wrong. I met him 3 weeks into my tenure. It was a Tuesday afternoon, the air in the infirmary thick with the smell of antiseptic and stale sweat. The radio on my hip crackled. "Code Blue and Block D, officer down, inmate injured." Minutes later, the double doors of the infirmary burst open. 2 guards dragged a man in. He was shackled at the wrists and ankles, the chains rattling ominously. He was covered in blood, some of it dried and dark, some of it fresh and bright red. "Patch him up, Doc," Officer Jenkins grunted, shoving the man onto the examination table. "He got jumped in the shower. 3 guys with shivs." "3?" I asked, horrified. "Yeah," Jenkins spat on the floor. "And he broke 6 of their ribs. They're on their way to the hospital. This one, he just needs stitches." Jenkins looked at the man on the table with disdain. "Watch out, Doc. He bites." The guard stepped outside to stand watch, leaving me alone with the monster. I snapped on my latex gloves, taking a deep breath to steady my racing heart. I walked towards the table. Roman Sterling sat perfectly still. He wasn't writhing in pain. He wasn't cursing. He was unnervingly calm. His orange jumpsuit was torn at the shoulder and chest, revealing skin that was a map of violence, old scars crisscrossed with fresh bruises. But it was his face that stopped me in my tracks. Underneath the blood matting his dark hair and the swelling over his left eye, he was devastatingly handsome. Sharp jawline, high cheekbones, a mouth that looked like it was carved from marble. And his eyes. They were green. Not the soft green of grass, but the intense electric green of a circuit board. They locked onto mine instantly. There was no madness in them, no rage, just a terrifying cold intelligence. He was analyzing me, dissecting me. "Mr. Sterling," I said, my voice sounding too loud in the quiet room. "I'm Dr. Miller. I need to examine your wounds." He didn't speak. He just watched me. I stepped closer, invading his personal space. He smelled of copper blood, industrial soap, and raw, dangerous masculinity. It was a scent that triggered a primal warning bell in my brain. Danger. I reached up to wipe the blood from his brow with a piece of gauze. My hand trembled slightly. "You're shaking," he noted. His voice was deep, rough from disuse, like gravel grinding against velvet. It sent a shiver down my spine. "I'm fine," I lied, focusing on the gash above his eyebrow. "This is deep. It needs stitches." "Do it," he said. I need to numb the area first. I reached for the lidocaine syringe. No. I paused. Excuse me. No drugs. Roman said, his eyes never leaving mine. I don't want any sedatives. I don't want any painkillers. Mr. Sterling, this will hurt. A lot. I need a clear head, he insisted. Always. If I sleep, I die. I realized then what his life must be like. Constant vigilance. Constant threat. Even here in the safety of the infirmary, he couldn't let his guard down. Okay, I said softly. No drugs. I began to work. I cleaned the wound with iodine. He didn't flinch. I threaded the needle. Hold still, I whispered. I pierced his skin. Most men would wince. Most men would gasp. Roman Sterling didn't even blink. He sat there like a statue, absorbing the pain as if it were fuel. Why did they attack you? I asked, trying to distract him and myself from the gruesome task. Because I'm expensive, he replied dryly. Expensive? Someone put a bounty on my head. He explained, his voice devoid of emotion. $5 million, deposited into a Swiss account for whoever puts a knife in my heart. Every guard, every inmate, they all want a piece of the payout. Who would do that? My wife, he said. The word was laced with so much venom it nearly burned the air. Ex-wife, the woman who framed me. She wants me dead before my appeal goes through. Dead men can't testify. I stopped stitching for a second. I looked at him. Really looked at him. You think you were framed? I asked. He let out a dark, humorless laugh. I don't think, doctor. I know. Innocent men don't end up in places like this. That's what you're thinking, isn't it? I didn't say that. You didn't have to. It's in your eyes. He leaned forward slightly, the chains clinking. You have very expressive eyes, Grace. They're too soft for a place like this. He used my first name. He wasn't supposed to know my first name. I wasn't wearing a name tag. How do you know my name? I whispered. I listen, he said. I watch. I know you graduated top of your class from Johns Hopkins. I know you drive a beat-up Honda Civic that needs a new transmission. And I know you're only here because you're drowning in debt. My blood ran cold. You've been investigating me. Information is the only currency that matters, he said. I needed to know if you were one of them, if you were paid to kill me on this table. I'm a doctor, I said indignantly, tying off the last stitch. I took an oath to do no harm. Oaths are just words, Roman murmured. But looking at you now, I believe you. I cut the thread. You're done. He didn't move. He stayed close, his face inches from mine. I could feel the heat radiating off his body. Thank you, he said. It was unexpected. Inmates didn't say thank you. They demanded drugs. They made lewd comments. They threatened. It's my job, I said, stepping back, putting distance between us. No, Roman shook his head. You touched me with gentle hands. No one has touched me gently in 2 years. That wasn't your job. That was kindness. He stood up. He towered over me, blocking out the light. For a moment I forgot he was a prisoner. I forgot I was a doctor. I just saw a man, a broken, dangerous, magnificent man. Be careful, Grace, he warned, his voice dropping to a whisper. They are watching you. The warden, the guards. Don't trust anyone in this building. Except you, I challenged, surprising myself. A slow smirk spread across his face. It transformed him, making him look less like a devil and more like a fallen angel. Especially not me, he said. I'm the most dangerous thing in here. The door opened. Officer Jenkins poked his head in. Done yet, Doc? We gotta get him back to solitary. He's done, I said, my voice breathless. Jenkins grabbed Roman's arm roughly. Let's go, Sterling, back to the hole. Roman didn't resist. He let them drag him away. But at the door, he looked back over his shoulder. His green eyes burned into mine, searing a message I couldn't quite read. I stood there in the empty infirmary, my heart pounding against my ribs. I looked down at my gloves stained with his blood. I knew I should be afraid. I knew I should report his threats, his knowledge of my personal life. But as I stripped off the gloves, all I could think about was the pain in his voice when he talked about his wife, and the terrifying thought that settled in my gut. What if he's telling the truth? And worse, what if I'm the only one who can help him? The weeks that followed our first meeting were a blur of stitches, silence, and unspoken words. Roman Sterling became a regular fixture in my infirmary. Not because he was clumsy, but because the attempts on his life were escalating with terrifying precision. A shiv made from a toothbrush handle in the exercise yard, 4 stitches to his shoulder. Glass crushed into his mashed potatoes stomach pump. A slip on the stairs while being escorted by 3 guards, a dislocated wrist. Every time he survived. He fought back with a ferocity that became legendary in Blackwood, and every time he ended up on my table. We developed a routine. A dangerous, intimate routine. Code blue solitary block. The radio would crackle. My heart would jump into my throat. I would prep the tray, needle, thread, antibiotic cream, and something else. While Officer Jenkins stood guard outside, bored and scrolling on his phone, Roman and I existed in our own private bubble. They tried to poison the water today, Roman murmured as I wrapped his wrist. Tasted like bleach. You need to drink, I whispered, checking the bruising. You're dehydrated. I'd rather be thirsty than dead. He looked at me. The swelling over his eye had faded, revealing the sharp, aristocratic lines of his face. He looked tired. Not physically, he was built like a tank, but his soul looked exhausted. I'm going crazy in there, Grace, he confessed one afternoon. It was the first time he had admitted weakness. Solitary confinement, 4 walls, no window, a light bulb that buzzes 24/7 so I can't sleep, no books, no paper, just the sound of my own heartbeat. I can't get you out of solitary, I said, my voice thick with sympathy. The warden says it's for your own protection. It's torture, he corrected. Sensory deprivation. They want to break my mind because they can't break my body. He leaned forward, the chains rattling. Talk to me. Tell me something real. Tell me about the world outside. What color is the sky today? I blinked back tears. It's blue. Eggshell blue. With wispy white clouds like spun sugar. He closed his eyes, inhaling deeply as if he could smell the fresh air through my description. Spun sugar, he repeated. I haven't seen a cloud in 2 years. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay in my small staff apartment, staring at the ceiling, thinking about Roman in his concrete box. A brilliant mind, a man who quoted Nietzsche and astrophysics, rotting in the dark. I made a decision. A reckless, stupid, career-ending decision. I went to the prison library the next morning. It was a dusty room filled with torn paperbacks. I searched the shelves until I found 3 books. The Count of Monte Cristo by Alexandre Dumas, a story about an innocent man imprisoned who escapes and seeks revenge. Fitting. A Brief History of Time by Stephen Hawking, to keep his mind sharp. The collected poems of Emily Dickinson. Because he needed beauty. I took the books back to the infirmary. I waited until the laundry cart came by for the daily pickup from the solitary block. The orderly, a young kid named Tim, was distracted flirting with one of the nurses. With trembling hands, I slipped the books under a pile of blood-stained sheets in the cart. I added a small bottle of antibiotic ointment and, on a whim, a king-size chocolate bar I had bought from the vending machine. It was contraband, smuggling. If I got caught, I would lose my license. I would be arrested. I would become inmate number 8931. But I pushed the cart towards the door. Tim, this load needs to go to solitary, now, before the stains set. Tim nodded, oblivious. He wheeled the cart away. For the next 2 days, I lived in a state of panic. Every time the phone rang, I thought it was the warden calling to fire me. But the call never came. Instead, Roman came back. He had fallen in the shower again. A minor cut on his forehead. When Jenkins left the room, Roman looked at me. His eyes were shining. Not with the cold intelligence I was used to, but with something warmer. Gratitude. Subtlety isn't your strong suit, Doc, he whispered, a small smile playing on his lips. I don't know what you're talking about, I said, focusing on cleaning the cut. The Count of Monte Cristo, he murmured. A bit on the nose, don't you think? I fought a smile. It's a classic. And the chocolate! His voice dropped, becoming rough with emotion. I haven't tasted sugar in 2 years. I ate it in the dark. It tasted like heaven. Like hope. He reached out. His hand covered mine where it rested on his chest. I could feel his heart beating beneath my palm, steady, strong, alive. Why are you doing this, Grace? He asked. You're risking everything for a convict. If they catch you... I told you, I said, looking deep into his green eyes. "I don't think you're a convict. I think you're a victim. And I can't stand the thought of you in the dark." Roman stared at me. The intensity in his gaze made the air in the room thin. "When I get out of here," he vowed, his thumb stroking the back of my hand, "I am going to give you the world, Grace Miller. I am going to build you a library bigger than this entire prison. I am going to buy you the sky." "Focus on staying alive first," I whispered, pulling my hand away before I did something incredibly stupid, like kiss him. But the universe had a way of testing promises. 1 week later, hell broke loose. It started in the cafeteria. A fight over food escalated into a brawl. Then someone stabbed a guard. The sirens began to wail. Whoop, whoop, whoop. Code red, all blocks, riot in progress, all staff to safe zones immediately. I was in the infirmary alone. My nurse had gone to lunch. I heard the announcement and panic seized me. I ran to the door to lock it, but I was too late. The double doors slammed open. 3 inmates burst in. They weren't injured. They were armed with makeshift knives, shanks made of sharpened metal and glass. They were high on adrenaline and bloodlust. "Well, well," the leader sneered. He was a massive man with a swastika tattoo on his forehead. "Look what we found, the pretty doctor." "Get out," I said, trying to sound authoritative though my voice shook. "This is a medical facility." "We need drugs," the second man said, advancing on me. "Give us the oxy, give us the morphine. And maybe a little fun." The third one laughed, looking me up and down in a way that made my skin crawl. I backed away until I hit the drug cabinet. I grabbed a scalpel from the tray. "Stay back!" They laughed. The leader lunged. I swung the scalpel, but he caught my wrist easily. He twisted it until I dropped the blade with a cry of pain. He slammed me against the cabinet, his hand closing around my throat. "You're going to be a good girl, Doc," he hissed, his foul breath in my face. "Or you're going to bleed." I couldn't breathe. Black spots danced in my vision. I clawed at his hand, but it was useless. I closed my eyes, waiting for the end. Crash! The infirmary doors exploded inward. A blur of orange motion slammed into the leader like a freight train. The pressure on my throat vanished. I slid to the floor, gasping for air. I looked up. Roman. He had broken out. During the chaos of the riot, the solitary block doors must have been overridden, but instead of running for the exit, instead of escaping to freedom, he had run to the infirmary. He was a force of nature. He grabbed the leader by the back of his neck and slammed his face into the metal cabinet with a sickening crunch. The man dropped like a stone. The other 2 inmates charged. They had knives. Roman had nothing but his bare hands and a rage that burned like a supernova. One inmate slashed at him. Roman blocked the strike with his forearm, taking a deep cut, but he didn't even flinch. He punched the man in the throat, then kicked his knee backward, snapping the joint. The third man hesitated, seeing his friends decimated in seconds. He turned to run. Roman didn't let him. He grabbed a metal IV pole and threw it like a javelin. It struck the man in the legs, tripping him. Roman was on him in a second, delivering a single knockout blow to the temple. Silence fell over the room. Roman stood amidst the carnage, his chest heaving. Blood dripped from his arm, pooling on the linoleum floor. He looked wild, terrifying. He turned to me. The demon vanished. In his place was a man consumed by fear for me. "Grace." He rushed to where I was huddled on the floor. He dropped to his knees, his bloody hands hovering over me, afraid to touch me. "Did they hurt you?" he demanded, his voice cracking. "Did they touch you?" I'm okay," I gasped, rubbing my bruised throat. "Roman, your arm. You're bleeding." "I don't care," he growled. He cupped my face with his hands, smearing blood on my cheek, but I didn't care either. "I heard the code red. I knew you were alone. I had to get to you. You could have escaped," I whispered, tears streaming down my face. "The gates, they might be open." "I'm not leaving without you," he said fiercely. "I told you this place eats kind things. I won't let them eat you." He pulled me into his arms, burying his face in my neck. I clung to him, listening to the frantic beat of his heart. For a moment, amidst the sirens and the violence, we were safe. But reality crashed back in. "Freeze, police! Get on the ground!" A tactical team burst through the door, assault rifles raised. Laser sights danced on Roman's back. "Hands up! Do it now, or we shoot!" Roman stiffened. He looked at me one last time. His eyes were full of regret and a fierce, burning promise. "Don't worry, Doc," he whispered, winking at me, a ghost of his old arrogance. "I'll see you in a few days for stitches." He slowly raised his hands and stood up, placing himself between me and the guns. "I surrender!" he shouted. They tackled him. 4 men jumped on his back, slamming him to the floor. They beat him with batons. I screamed for them to stop, but they didn't listen. They dragged him away, leaving a trail of blood on the white floor. I sat there in the ruins of my infirmary, touching the blood on my cheek. I knew then that I was in too deep. I wasn't just a doctor anymore. I was an accomplice. And I had fallen in love with the most dangerous man in the world. The riot changed everything. Roman was thrown back into solitary confinement, but this time the security was doubled. He was labeled high risk. No one was allowed near him, not even me. For 2 weeks I paced my infirmary like a caged animal. I treated broken noses and infections, but my mind was always in Block D, wondering if he was alive, if his wounds were healing, if he was thinking of me. Then I got a summons. "Dr. Miller," Warden Halloway said, not looking up from his paperwork. "Inmate 8930 has requested a medical evaluation. He claims his stitches are infected." My heart skipped a beat. "I'll go immediately." "Not in the infirmary." The warden stopped me. "He's too dangerous to move. You'll treat him in the visitation room, under supervision." I grabbed my medical bag and ran. The visitation room was a cold, sterile box divided by a thick pane of plexiglass. But for medical procedures, there was a small, secure side room with a metal table and restraints. Roman was already there. He was handcuffed to the table, his orange jumpsuit stark against the gray walls. He looked thinner. His cheekbones were sharper, his eyes darker. But when he saw me, a spark ignited in them. "Hello, Doc," he rasped. The guard, a new guy who looked nervous, stood by the door. "Make it quick, Doc. 5 minutes." I walked over to Roman. I set my bag down. My hands were shaking. "Let me see," I whispered. He rolled up his sleeve. The cut on his arm from the riot, the one he got saving me, was red and angry. It was infected, but not badly enough to warrant an emergency visit. He had picked at it. He had made it worse on purpose, just to see me. "You idiot," I murmured, cleaning the wound. "You could have gotten sepsis." "Worth it," he said, his eyes tracking my every movement. "I needed to see you. I needed to know you were safe." "I'm fine because of you," I replied, applying the antibiotic cream. "Grace," he said. The way he said my name, like it was a prayer and a curse, made my breath hitch. He glanced at the guard. The man was checking his watchboard. Roman leaned forward as far as the chains would allow. "Check my heart," he whispered. "What? My heart rate. It feels irregular. Use the stethoscope." I knew he was lying, but I put the earpieces in and placed the cold metal disc against his chest, right over his heart. Thump, 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 thump. It was steady, strong, but fast. "It sounds normal," I started to say. "Lower," he commanded softly. I slid the stethoscope down his chest towards his abdomen. His muscles twitched under my touch. "Closer," he breathed. I realized what he wanted. He didn't want a medical exam. He wanted contact. I moved my hand so that my fingers, not just the metal disc, brushed his skin. His body heat was scorching. Even through the latex gloves, I could feel the electricity arcing between us. "You have no idea," he murmured, his voice so low only I could hear, "what I would do to you if these chains weren't here." My face heated up. "Roman, I dream about you in the dark, Grace. I dream about your hands, not stitching me up, but touching me, everywhere." His words were raw, explicit, a stark contrast to the clinical setting. "I dream about tasting you." He continued, his gaze dropping to my lips. "I'd start at your throat, right where your pulse is jumping now." I was trembling. The air in the room felt thick, heavy with suppressed desire. I was a doctor. He was a convict. This was wrong. This was illegal. And God help me, I wanted it. I leaned in, pretending to check his eye with a penlight. Our faces were inches apart. "I dream about you too," I confessed, a whisper of sin. For a second, time stopped. We were just a man and a woman drawn together by a magnetic force that defied laws and logic. The door buzzed. "Time's up," the guard barked. We pulled apart. The loss of contact was physically painful. "Wait," the guard said, looking at a clipboard. Hold on, Sterling has a visitor. I frowned. A visitor who? His wife. Roman's face went rigid. The desire vanished, replaced by a cold, deadly mask. Ex-wife, he corrected sharply. I don't want to see her. Not up to you, pal, the guard sneered. She has a court order, lawyer stuff. The door opened again, and she walked in. Victoria Sterling. I had seen her photos in the magazines, the grieving widow of the tech world. She was even more beautiful in person and more terrifying. She wore a white designer suit that cost more than my car, her blonde hair perfectly coiffed, her lips painted a blood-red smile. She looked at Roman with a mixture of pity and triumph. Then she looked at me. Her blue eyes scanned my simple scrubs, my messy ponytail, my name badge. She dismissed me instantly as irrelevant. Leave us, she ordered the guard. Protocol says the doctor stays for medical supervision, I said, stepping forward. I wasn't going to leave him with her. Not after what he told me. Victoria raised an perfectly sculpted eyebrow. Fine. Be a fly on the wall. Just don't buzz too loud. She sat in the chair opposite Roman, crossing her long legs. Hello, darling, she purred. You look terrible. Prison doesn't suit you. What do you want, Victoria? Roman asked, his voice flat. I came to bring you the news personally, she smiled, revealing perfect white teeth. The board voted this morning. They officially ousted you. I am now the CEO of Sterling Tech. Unanimous vote. Roman didn't flinch. Enjoy it while it lasts. When I get out... Oh, Roman! She laughed, a tinkling sound that grated on my nerves. You're never getting out. The appeal, my lawyers will bury it. You're going to die in this concrete box, and the world will forget you ever existed. She leaned forward, placing her manicured hand on the table dangerously close to his shackled one. Do you remember our penthouse? She whispered. The one with the view of the bay I redecorated? I burned all your books. I sold your art. I erased you. I saw Roman's jaw tighten. His fists clenched until his knuckles turned white. He wasn't angry about the money. He was angry about the erasure. You can burn my things, Roman said quietly. But you can't burn the truth. You killed him, Victoria. You killed Mark. Allegedly, she winked. But who is the jury going to believe, the grieving woman in the white suit or the monster in the orange jumpsuit? She stood up, smoothing her skirt. She walked over to me. She stood too close, her expensive perfume, something cloying and floral, filling my nose. And you, she said, looking me up and down, the little prison doctor. I hear you've been taking special care of my husband. I treat all patients equally, I said stiffly. I'm sure, she smirked. She reached out and tucked a stray lock of hair behind my ear. Her touch was cold, patronizing. Don't get attached, sweetie. He uses women. He'll use you to get what he wants, drugs, escape, whatever, and then he'll discard you, just like he did to me. She leaned in close to my ear. He's a killer. Don't forget that. She turned and walked out, her heels clicking on the linoleum like gunshots. Silence descended on the room. I looked at Roman. He had his head bowed, his shoulders hunched. He looked defeated. The woman he once loved had just stripped him of everything he had left. Roman. I took a step towards him. Don't, he said harshly. He didn't look up. She's right. I'm Poison Grace. Stay away from me. No, I said firmly. I walked right up to him. I put my hands on his face and forced him to look at me. She's a liar, I said fiercely. She didn't erase you. You are still here. You are Roman Sterling. You are the smartest man I know. And you are going to fight. Why? He asked, his voice breaking. What is there to fight for? Me, I whispered. His eyes widened. The green fire in them reignited. Fight for me, Roman, because I am fighting for you. I'm going to find the evidence she hid. I'm going to prove you're innocent. He stared at me with wonder. You would do that? I'm already doing it, I confessed. I hacked the prison logs. I found a discrepancy in the visitor records from the night of the murder. Victoria was here, in Nevada, not in California like she claimed. Grace, I love you, I said. It just slipped out. Roman let out a sound that was half sob, half laugh. He surged forward, straining against the chains. He couldn't reach me with his arms, so he reached me with his mouth. He kissed me. It was desperate. It was hungry. It tasted of blood and antiseptic and hope. His lips moved against mine with a fierce possession. "I love you," he groaned against my mouth. "I swear to you, Grace, I will get out of here, and when I do, Victoria will pay, and you will be my queen." The guard banged on the door. "Time's up. Step away." We broke apart breathless. Roman's eyes were blazing now. The defeat was gone. The devil was back. "Go," he told me. "Find the evidence, but be careful. She kills to keep her secrets." "I'm not afraid of her," I said. "Good." Roman smiled a dark, dangerous smile. "Because the hunt has just begun." The promise I made to Roman hung heavy in the air between us. "I'm going to prove you're innocent." Bravado. Pure, stupid bravado. I was a doctor, not a detective. I knew how to stitch wounds, not hack mainframes or uncover conspiracies. But looking into Roman's eyes that had reignited with hope because of me, I knew I couldn't back down. I started small. I used the prison computer in the infirmary late at night. My clearance level gave me access to visitor logs, but not much else. Still, I found breadcrumbs. Victoria Sterling had visited the prison 3 times before Roman was convicted, under a fake name. V. Stones. Not subtle, but I needed more. I needed the smoking gun. Roman had mentioned a safe. "In our old penthouse," he had whispered during our last rushed appointment. "Behind the painting in the study, the one she hated, the storm. There's a flash drive. It has the encrypted backups of the security footage she thought she deleted." "She said she redecorated," I reminded him. "She said she burned everything." "She's a narcissist," Roman countered. "She wouldn't burn a painting worth $2 million. She probably moved it to storage, or her new office." So I had a mission. Find the painting, find the drive. It was a Saturday night. I drove my battered Honda Civic to the towering glass skyscraper that housed Sterling Tech. The building pierced the night sky like a needle. I wasn't a spy. I didn't have grappling hooks or lasers. But I had something better: a white coat and a clipboard. I put on my doctor's coat, grabbed a fake delivery bag labeled "Urgent Medical Supplies for CEO," and walked up to the front desk. "Delivery for Ms. Sterling," I told the night guard, projecting an air of bored annoyance. "Her personal physician sent over her medication." The guard looked at the bag, then at my ID badge, which I had strategically blurred with a thumb smudge. "She's in a meeting on the 40th floor. You can leave it here." "It needs refrigeration," I lied smoothly. "And a signature. HIPAA regulations. Unless you want to explain to the CEO why her insulin went bad." The guard paled. "Go ahead. Elevator 4. I was in. The elevator ride was agonizingly slow. My heart hammered against my ribs like a trapped bird. If I get caught, I go to jail. I end up in Blackwood on the other side of the bars. The doors opened on the 40th floor. It was silent. The offices were sleek, modern, and empty. I navigated the hallways following the signs to the CEO's office. The door was unlocked. Victoria's arrogance was her weakness. She didn't think anyone would dare enter her domain. I slipped inside. The office was massive, with a view of the city lights that rivaled the one from Roman's penthouse, and there, hanging on the wall behind the desk, was the painting. The Storm, a chaotic swirl of dark blues and grays. I rushed over to it. My hands were shaking. I lifted the heavy frame away from the wall. Nothing. Just smooth plaster. My heart sank. She moved it. Or Roman was wrong. Wait. I ran my fingers along the back of the frame itself. There was a small, almost imperceptible bump in the wood. A hidden compartment. I pried it open with my fingernail. A small silver USB drive fell into my hand. "Gotcha," I breathed. I pocketed the drive and turned to leave. The office lights flickered on. I froze. Standing in the doorway was not a guard. It was Victoria. She wasn't alone. 2 men in suits, hired muscle knot security, stood behind her. "Well, well," Victoria drawled, stepping into the room. She held a glass of wine, looking entirely unbothered. "The little doctor plays detective. How quaint." "Victoria," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "Did Roman send you?" she asked, walking over to her desk and sitting down. "Of course he did. He always was good at manipulating women. He probably promised you the world, didn't he? Help me, Grace, and we'll run away together." She laughed. "Pathetic." "He didn't manipulate me," I said. "He told me the truth. You killed Mark. You framed him. Details, details." She waved her hand dismissively. "Mark was weak. Roman was in the way. I just reorganized the company structure. She looked at my pocket. Hand it over. What? The drive. I know it was in the frame. I left it there as a test, to see if Roman would send someone. My blood ran cold. It was a trap. I don't have anything, I lied. Search her, Victoria ordered the men. The goons advanced. I backed away until I hit the window. Don't touch me. One of them grabbed my arm. I kicked him in the shin hard. He grunted but didn't let go. He twisted my arm behind my back, forcing a cry of pain from my lips. He reached into my pocket and pulled out the drive. Here, Ms. Sterling. Victoria took the drive. She held it up to the light, smiling. Then she dropped it into her glass of wine. Oops, she said. I watched in horror as the drive sizzled slightly in the liquid. The evidence, Roman's freedom, gone. Now, Victoria said, her voice turning cold. What to do with you? I can't have a prison doctor running around telling stories. She tapped her chin. An accident, perhaps, a car crash on the way home. Tragedy. Overworked doctor falls asleep at the wheel. The goons tightened their grip on me. You won't get away with this, I spat. I already have, she replied. Take her to the roof, make it look like a suicide. Guilt over smuggling contraband to an inmate. It fits the narrative perfectly. They dragged me towards the door. I fought. I screamed. I bit the hand of the man holding me. Help, fire. Nobody heard. The building was empty. They dragged me into the service elevator. We went up, to the roof. The wind was howling up here. The edge of the building was a sheer drop to the concrete 50 stories below. Please, I begged, my bravado crumbling. I won't tell anyone. I'll leave town. Too late, the goon said. He pushed me towards the edge. I looked down at the dizzying lights. This was it. I was going to die. I would never see Roman again. I would never tell him I failed. The man pushed me harder. My heels slipped on the gravel. Then a sound cut through the wind. Thwop, thwop, thwop. A helicopter. It rose from below the edge of the building, its searchlight blinding us. The wind from the rotors knocked me back from the ledge. The goons shielded their eyes. What the hell? The helicopter hovered just above the roof. The side door slid open. A man leaned out. He wasn't wearing a pilot's uniform. He was wearing an orange jumpsuit. Roman. I rubbed my eyes. It was impossible. He was in solitary. He was in chains. But there he was, hanging out of a helicopter, a rifle in his hands. He didn't hesitate. He fired. 2 shots. The goons dropped, clutching their legs. Roman didn't kill them. He crippled them. The helicopter lowered. Roman jumped onto the roof before the skids even touched the ground. He ran to me. Grace. He grabbed me, pulling me away from the edge. His hands were real. His smell, prison soap, and adrenaline was real. Roman, I sobbed, clinging to him. How are you here? I have friends on the outside, he said breathlessly, checking me for injuries. Hackers. Loyalists. They jammed the prison security grid for 3 minutes. That was all I needed. He looked at the goons writhing on the ground, then at the door where Victoria would be waiting. We have to go, he said. The police will be here in minutes, and the warden will realize I'm gone. The drive, I cried. She destroyed it. She put it in wine. It doesn't matter, Roman said, pulling me towards the chopper. You were the leverage she wanted. Now I have you. We can find another way. He lifted me into the helicopter. He jumped in after me. Go, he yelled to the pilot. As we lifted off, leaving the skyscraper behind, I looked down. I saw Victoria, running onto the roof, screaming in rage as her prey flew away. I looked at Roman. He was a fugitive now, an escaped convict, the most wanted man in America. And I was sitting next to him. He wrapped an arm around me, pulling me into his side. He kissed the top of my head. I told you I'd come for you, he whispered. You're crazy. I laughed through my tears. You broke out of prison for me. I'd break out of hell for you, Grace. We flew into the night, leaving the city lights behind. I didn't know where we were going. I didn't know if we would survive the night. But as I leaned my head on his chest, listening to his steady heart, I knew one thing. I wasn't the innocent doctor anymore. I was the outlaw's woman, and I wouldn't trade it for anything. We landed in the desert, not the prison desert, but a remote stretch of land miles away from civilization. A black SUV was waiting, engine running. Change, Roman ordered, tossing me a bag. Burn the scrubs. They have trackers. We changed in the dark, the helicopter rotor wash kicking up sand around us. I stripped off my doctor's coat, my identity, and pulled on jeans and a black hoodie. Roman changed out of his orange jumpsuit into tactical gear. He looked less like a prisoner and more like a soldier going to war. We drove for hours. Roman didn't speak. He kept checking the rearview mirror, his hand resting on the gear shift close to my knee. "Where are we going?" I whispered. "Safe house," he said. "Off the grid. My old hacker buddy Cypher set it up." We arrived at a cabin deep in the mountains as dawn was breaking. It was small, rustic, and hidden by towering pines. Inside, it was stocked with food, weapons, and computers. "We're safe here," Roman said, locking the door. "For now." The adrenaline crash hit me then. I sank onto the dusty sofa, my hands shaking uncontrollably. I almost died. She was going to throw me off the roof. Roman was beside me in an instant. He knelt on the floor, taking my hands. "I know. I'm sorry. I should never have let you go there." "I lost the drive," I sobbed. "It's gone, Roman. The evidence, your freedom, it's all gone." "No," he said firmly. He reached up and wiped a tear from my cheek. "The drive was plan A, but I always have a plan B." "What's plan B?" "We don't need the video," he said, his eyes dark. "We need a witness. Someone who was there that night. Someone Victoria thinks she paid off." "Who?" "Her driver, Marcus. He drove her to the prison. He drove her to my apartment the night Mark died. He knows everything." "But how do we find him? We're fugitives." "Cypher is tracking him now." Roman pointed to the humming server rack in the corner. "We rest. Then we hunt." The intimacy, spicy scene. But sleep didn't come easily. There was only one bed, a small, creaky mattress in the loft. "You take the bed," Roman said, grabbing a blanket. "I'll take the couch." "No," I said. The thought of being alone, even for a few feet, terrified me. "Stay, please." He hesitated, then nodded. We lay down, fully clothed, backs to each other. But the air between us was electric. I could hear his breathing. I could feel his heat. "Roman." "Yeah." "Why did you come for me?" I asked into the darkness. "You could have flown to Mexico. You could be free." He turned over. I turned too. We were face to face on the narrow pillow. "Freedom means nothing if I'm alone," he whispered. He reached out his fingers, tracing the line of my jaw. His touch was reverent, as if he couldn't believe I was real. "In that cell," he murmured, "I forgot what touch felt like. I forgot what warmth felt like, until you stitched me up." He moved closer. His leg brushed against mine. "Grace," he breathed. "Can I kiss you? Not like in the prison. Not through chains. For real." "Yes." He kissed me. It started slow, a gentle exploration of lips and breath. But then the dam broke. The fear of the last few hours, the longing of the last few months, it all exploded. His hands tangled in my hair. My hands gripped his shoulders. He pulled me flush against him, his body hard and demanding. It wasn't just a kiss anymore. It was a claiming. "You're mine," he groaned against my mouth. "Doctor, savior, mine." "I'm yours," I promised. We didn't sleep. We spent the next few hours memorizing each other, making up for lost time, finding solace in the storm. For a few hours we weren't fugitives. We were just two people in love. The next morning, Cypher's computer pinged. "Got him," Roman said, reading the screen. "Marcus. He's at an underground poker game in downtown LA." "LA?" I asked. "That's risky." "High risk, high reward." Roman checked his gun. "We leave in 10. We drove to LA. The city was a sprawling beast of lights and traffic. We blended in. The poker game was in the back of a smoky bar. Roman went in first. I waited in the car, the getaway driver. 10 minutes passed, then 20. I saw the back door of the bar open. Roman walked out, dragging a man by the collar. "Marcus." He shoved Marcus into the back seat of the SUV. I hit the gas. "Don't kill me," Marcus screamed, cowering away from Roman. "I didn't do it. She made me." "Shut up," Roman growled, pressing the barrel of his gun into Marcus's knee. "You're going to tell the police everything, or I leave you here for the vultures." "I can't," Marcus cried. She'll kill me. She has people everywhere. And I have nothing left to lose, Roman said coldly. Who are you more afraid of, Marcus? The woman in the ivory tower, or the man with the gun who just broke out of prison to find you? Marcus looked at Roman's eyes, dead empty eyes that promised violence. He broke. Okay, I'll talk. I have the recordings. She made me record the call where she ordered the hit. Where are they? Cloud storage, encrypted. I can give you the key. Roman looked at me in the rearview mirror. He smiled, a real smile. We got her. We didn't go to the police. The police were likely on Victoria's payroll. We went to the only place she couldn't control. The news station. Channel 8 was broadcasting live. We stormed the lobby. Roman fired a shot into the ceiling to clear the room non-lethal just for effect. We're going on air, he told the terrified producer. Minutes later, Roman Sterling, the escaped convict, the murderer, was sitting at the news desk live nationwide. I stood beside him, holding Marcus's phone with the audio file. Good evening, America, Roman said into the camera. He looked haggard, dangerous, and utterly compelling. My name is Roman Sterling, and I did not kill my partner. He played the recording. Victoria's voice filled millions of living rooms, cold, calculating. Mark is becoming a problem. Make it look like a robbery. Use Roman's gun. Wipe the security logs. The nation gasped. In her penthouse office watching the TV, I imagined Victoria screaming as her empire crumbled. Police sirens wailed outside the station. Roman stood up. He took my hand. They're coming, he said. I know. They'll arrest us. I know. Worth it? He asked, kissing my knuckles. I looked at the man who had risked everything for the truth. For me. Every second, I said. The doors burst open. Police, hands up. We raised our hands together, fingers interlaced. We were going back to prison. But this time the truth was out, and this time we weren't alone. The trial of the century didn't happen in a courtroom. It happened on the 6 o'clock news. After Roman played that recording, the world exploded. Sterling Tech's stock plummeted. Victoria tried to flee the country, but the FBI caught her boarding a private jet to the Caymans. The image of her in handcuffs, mascara running down her face, was plastered on every screen in America. Roman and I were arrested, of course. But the mood was different this time. The cops didn't rough him up. They looked at him with respect. I was charged with aiding and abetting a fugitive. My medical license was suspended. I spent 3 months in county jail awaiting trial, but the public was on our side. #free grace and #justice for Roman trended globally. We were the modern-day Bonnie and Clyde, but innocent. The DA dropped the charges against me. Duress, they called it. They said Roman forced me. He didn't force me. I told the judge, head held high. I did it for love. The judge sentenced me to time served and community service. I was free. But Roman had to wait. The legal system moves slowly, even when the truth is screaming. He had to go back to Blackwood while they processed his exoneration. For 6 months I visited him every week, but this time there was no glass. We sat at a table holding hands. Soon, he would whisper, kissing my palm, just a little longer. And then the day came. I was working at a free clinic downtown. My license was reinstated after a massive petition. It was a rainy Tuesday. The clinic door opened, but it wasn't a patient. It was a man in a suit. Dr. Miller, please come with me. Am I being arrested again? I joked nervously. No, ma'am, your ride is here. He led me outside. The street was blocked off, and sitting in the middle of the intersection, blades whirring, was a sleek black helicopter. The door slid open. Roman, he wasn't wearing an orange jumpsuit. He was wearing a bespoke charcoal suit, a white shirt unbuttoned at the collar, and sunglasses. He looked like the billionaire he was born to be. He jumped out, ignoring the rain, ignoring the cheering crowd that had gathered. He walked straight to me. Roman, I gasped. You're out. Exonerated, full pardon, and a massive settlement from the state for wrongful imprisonment. He grinned, that devastating, arrogant grin I had missed so much. He didn't say another word. He scooped me up in his arms, spinning me around as I laughed and cried into his shoulder. I told you, he whispered in my ear. I told you I'd buy you the sky. He carried me to the helicopter. We lifted off, soaring above the city, that had tried to crush us. We flew over Blackwood Prison. From up here it looked small, insignificant, a concrete scar in the desert. "Look down," Roman said over the headset. I looked. In the prison yard, the inmates were looking up. They knew. They were cheering. Even from this height, I could see them raising their fists. The devil had escaped hell, and he had taken the angel with him. We landed on the roof of the Sterling Tower, the same roof where Victoria had tried to kill me. It was reclaimed territory now. Roman led me to the edge. The city lights twinkled below like a sea of diamonds. "I promised you a library," he said. He pressed a button on a remote. The lights on the roof deck flared on. There, set up under a glass canopy, was a dinner table for two, and surrounding it were bookshelves, hundreds of them, filled with first editions, poetry, science, everything we had talked about in the dark. It's beautiful," I choked out. "It's a start," Roman said. He turned to me, taking my hands. "Grace, you saved my life. You saved my soul. You loved me when I was nothing but a number." He dropped to one knee. My heart stopped. He pulled out a ring. It wasn't a diamond. It was a simple band of twisted silver made from the metal of his prison spoon. He had made it himself month after month, scraping it against the concrete floor of his cell. "I didn't want to buy you a rock," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "I wanted to give you something real, something that survived the fire, like us." "Roman, will you marry me, Dr. Miller? Will you be my partner in freedom, just as you were my partner in chains?" "Yes," I whispered, falling to my knees to hug him. "Yes, 1,000 times yes." He slipped the rough silver ring onto my finger. It fit perfectly. It was worth more than the entire sterling fortune. We kissed under the stars, the wind whipping around us free at last. The nightmare was over. The convict was gone. The doctor was gone. There was just Roman and Grace, and we had the rest of our lives to write our own story.